Today we have a very special guest joining us, Irina. Irina is a very experienced SaaS founder and business consultant, specializing in operations and processes with a background that includes over 50 companies worldwide and 2.5 years of running a fulfillment center in China. Welcome, Irina. Thank you very much for attending today.
Thank you.
So this is going to be a sort of quick fire question round to sort of get to know a bit more about your personality and sort of the challenges you face and experiences you've had. So are you ready to go?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so what does it say on your business card?
It says Irina Poddubnaia, founder of TrackMage.
Okay,
and then the links to our social media.
Okay, is it a small business card or a big one?
It's a small one. It's just the plain one with just my picture, founder of TrackMage, and the social media where
Many people now have those digital business cards where you just tap with the phone. They're quite handy. So, no, that's wonderful. Okay, so if we ask 10 people of your old, or 10 of your old schoolmates, how would they describe you?
Well, 10 people from my old school. I changed 5 schools when I was young, and they would probably all have very different explanations of who I am and what I am. Like, I guess, like black sheep or something.
Really? Okay.
Yes. They would tell like, well, she was always like, I don't know, like teacher's pet or a black sheep, or like depending on what stage of my life that was. So that's what.
Would you have been considered like a bit of a geeky kid, sort of pardon the phrase?
Absolutely.
Really studying. Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, I was a little bit of both. In primary school, I was a bit more of a geek, and then when I sort of got to secondary school, I got influenced by what was going on around me and just got slightly distracted. So that's good that you stuck through that. So what was the last time you did something that scared you?
Literally today.
Oh, yeah, I hope I'm not too frightening.
Yeah, well, it wasn't frightening per se, but it's just like every time you are running a startup business, you have to make some very ambiguous decisions. There is no clear wrong and right, and then you just have to hire, fire people, and make decisions based on what they did. So I had to make a decision about a developer on the team. Because the developer, like, he was doing a decent job, but still there was one character trait that I couldn't tolerate. And it was that he was always pointing fingers on other developers, on the circumstances, or other external things that were out of his control, let's say. And this is something that I personally do not tolerate in like family life and business. Elsewhere. So that's why we decided to fire him.
Oh, that's fair enough. Well, that's a shame in some respects, but some people, they don't like taking accountability, and that's one of the key aspects of business as well. Is if we fail, we hold our hands up and say, I was wrong, or I've made a mistake. Some people's pride gets in the way, but no, that's interesting. So if you were writing a movie script about your life, what would the opening scene be?
The opening scene would be me sitting in a fulfillment center, like in our warehouse, just packaging all those boxes and then saying like, that's not what I wanted to do with my life. Like, that's really not what I wanted to do with my life. Yeah. And later it led to a decision to really move a business online and not have ties to specific locations. And that's how we fully transitioned remote and online later on.
Oh, I think that's good. That's interesting. So what technology at the moment is making you nervous?
I think that's the most highly advertised on social media right now, AI. So what are we going to AI next? What is really scary is that it's very easy to take a footage of somebody, their voice, their identity, their entire design, and just do it in a snap of fingers. And then you don't really know what is real, what is not anymore. And if the celebrity is saying something,
the deep fake is crazy, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. So that's probably the solution that is going to change not just how we interact with one another, but like show your hands, like prove you're not AI.
Yeah, do something that's yeah, that's a good point actually. Show your hands, or even the news of the day if you're being interviewed. If it's not, make sure there's not an AI person but you could be AI right now for all I know. It could be a
Okay,
yeah, it's,
let's
yeah.
try it. Let's check it.
There's how many fingers on your right hand are you holding up? Yeah, there you go.
Bro.
So that's an interesting test actually. Need to look into that.
Yep.
Okay, so for a $10,000 bet, then what can you confidently do better than Chat GTP? What
Mhm.
should you do that could be better?
I believe I that like absolutely facilitate meetings better than ChatGPT ever could. Not only because people like to interact with people and they only respond to people, but because it needs to be fun and it needs to be entertaining and engaging for every participant. So that's, I believe, something that is even hard to fake with deep fake or the video and etc.
The
Because
human
people,
emotion.
yes, the human emotion and connection, and humans really respond to humans better when they respond to tools. And you can ask any project manager, or you can ask any person who wanted to change their habits with just following an app, like how much better it is with a coach. Because with a coach, you have a real person you're accountable to. But
Exactly.
with an app, like, I don't check the box. Like, what's the big deal?
No, exactly. That's right. And also, it's revealing those personal inner sort of thoughts and feelings about yourself, and those struggles and that insecurities that an AI algorithm wouldn't necessarily pick up, and it might give you a very clinical response rather than a real deep emotional human response. So I think there's a lot
Yeah.
of work to be done on that one. But no, it's interesting. Okay, so you have 60 seconds. Teach me and the audience something that would change our lives. So, what insights and advice could you give that would change our lives?
Okay. So the first one would be you have to take risks. You have to take risks when you are starting something, and you have to see it through. Because a lot of people they don't take risks, and they always stay at their job and they stay where they are all their life, and they don't even know what they're capable of. Uh, and then the second one would be to consistently see it through. That's what really makes the difference between the winners and losers. So the winners, they are always like they persevere through all the struggle that it takes to really achieve the goal. So definitely just take risks, even if sometimes it's like sometimes your entire family, your acquaintances, your entire circle of influence, they are all persuading you not to, but you know this is the right thing. Just like, what are you going to lose? Like, you are going
Mhm.
to just acquire experience, if nothing else.
Exactly. No,
That's fun.
100%. Learn by the mistakes as well. A mistake or a failure is not something to be ashamed of or embarrassed of. People need to sort of realize that without those failures, you're never going to learn to not make them again or adapt and overcome the situations you're in. So, and also, I agree totally. Like taking yourself out of that comfort zone
Yeah,
is really, really important. Because I used to be a competitive bodybuilder. I
yeah,
placed second to Mr. Britain, and I've won some regional shows within the UK. And I was very nervous when I was a kid. So it's like I had to overcome that those nerves and anxiety to be able to present myself in front of 1,000 people. It took a lot of work. But then when you do that thing and you stood there with very little on and you're showing yourself off and you've got people judging you as well, so it's kind of like you then become your own self-judge and your own critical sort of, you're criticizing yourself more than you should be, but that sometimes can be a healthy thing, because if you're competing against yourself, you can always keep improving. So I totally agree. It's really important. It's really good. So when was the last time you had to leave something behind? What was it and why?
that was probably my first business in China. So I had to leave it because it was no longer profitable, and it really was a draining business model. Where we had to like persevere and fulfill all the orders, ship all the boxes, do a lot of stuff that like normal people that work in an office environment wouldn't even imagine doing. But since we were in this entrepreneurial journey and we wanted to really make it work, that's when we ended up with a fulfillment center where we had to work as everyone in the business, including the warehouse workers. So I think that's the thing that I will like. There was this tint of regret because we had all the infrastructure built out. We had the warehouse, we had the premises, we had all the systems configured. But then in the end of the day, what is worth more than all this setup? It's us. It's our lives. And like, what do we want to do with those lives? So that's what tempted me to leave it. And that was a wise decision in
So how did you
hindsight.
feel about losing the employees? How did you handle that one? Was that difficult?
It is difficult with this interesting notion that since you're losing the employees, you're keeping the money and the resources you would have spent on those employees, and that opens like all other opportunities where
True.
you could
Yeah, true.
just reinvest them. Like you could even acquire a different business if you wanted to, with all those resources that you are freeing.
Did you just out of curiosity, did you help the employees sort of find other work, or did you give them guidance on different directions they could go, or was it just a case of, we need to move on with the business? And how did you handle that situation?
Well, in the Chinese venture, we didn't have that many employees to begin with, so it was just literally one other person besides us. So yeah,
Fair enough.
it wasn't such a big deal. But when it comes to the current times and when I have to let people go, it's not like they're helpless. I mean, in the current economy, where you're working remotely, you can find freelancing opportunities like every time of the day, and that's another thing that might be beneficial to certain people. So if you are losing your job, if you're out of a job, that's the best thing that could ever happen. You have so many opportunities right now, and you can go on Upwork, you can register an account, and you will get your first job in less than 2 weeks. Like 100% guarantee, like that always happens. And also, you can use ChatGPT to create the cover letters, because that thing is awesome. You give it the
Yes,
job description, you create the cover letter from that. It's magical.
it
And
is, man.
social media is like just flooded with all those different prompts that you can use to do that.
So this is going off slightly from the next question I was going to ask you, but so if somebody who is unemployed at the moment that's looking for a career online, what would be the number one sort of, or top three, should we say, industries that you would say start learning that? That's going to be something that you can really do well at with the future the way things are looking at the moment. What would you say are the top three, or even just one in particular for somebody who's watching this who's just lost their job, for example?
Just one thing, before you learn something, like when you are an unemployed, just look at your experience. Like, who are you? Like, are you a lawyer? Are you a real estate agent? Who are you? Are you a nurse? So look at your background first, and pull your strengths from that background, because it's very easy to go this route of like, oh, I want to be a UI designer, and then you just
Mm,
like learn all those courses and like endlessly trying to educate yourself, and all that ends up doing is that you're losing your main qualification, and you're becoming one of those generic designers that don't have any experience on the market. So
mm-hmm,
it's much better to first look at your background and look for something that you can do without any further education. That's the first one, because that happened to me. Once we were out of that business, I had to find the work online. And at that point, I had this belief that only developers can work online. And that was the time when I started learning JavaScript, when I started to build WordPress websites. That's outside of my comfort zone. I don't like doing that. I'm not
mm,
good at that. But I started doing that because I assumed that's the only thing that can earn money. But when I came to Upwork, the first time, I just scrolled through all the positions available, like regardless of the industry and search, and I noticed project management. I completely disregarded it from the get-go, because I thought like, oh, that's too easy. Like it's not gonna pay a lot. That was a big mistake. Later on, after I was tired from like learning JavaScript and building WordPress websites, I went back to revisiting project management, and I got my first job at $25 per hour to be a project manager at Del Monte. And that was the beginning of a great career, because later it just like increased from 25 to 45 to 95 to 125, now over 200. So it's still paying well. But
So
that's my personal consulting and like personal
yeah,
coaching
yeah. So
that
it
where I
sounds like
transitioned.
you found yourself. You knew what you were good at, and like you were saying there, it's understanding your personality as well, and what you're. Some people are better at doing the administration data side of IT. Some people are better at positioning it and selling it. Some people are better at marketing it, and they understand, the triggers and the pain points and potential customers and clients, so they can learn that skill. So it's all about as well, looking at what you've previously done and then using that experience as well as what you really want to do and combining the two into finding something that works for you in all aspects. I think, you're 100%, you're right on that one. That's really good advice, actually, Irina.
Yep.
So give me one sort of revealing question that I can ask the next guest. So we've got somebody else coming on the show. What can I ask them on your behalf?
I believe the question I would like to ask is, what are your values? What are your values in life? Something like that.
Yeah, that's one. That's a good one. So, one other thing as well. Who else would you know that would love to be on the show? Have you got anybody in mind that you think would add value to this and enjoy the experience?
There are plenty of people I could think of, just like right out of the gates. Like I need to ask, I need to ask around. Like I
That's fair
cannot
enough.
appoint any person right now.
Okay, so this is the well, a little bit of a darker question, but it's an interesting one. What people think. So, what are the 3 words that you'd want written on your epitaph? So, what would be on your headstone as such? Your sort of the 3 words that would describe you.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I'm struggling with the language structure because, like, I can think of 4 words, not 3.
That's fine. Well, give me 4 if you like, but yeah, it's just
All right, right. Took her best shot.
Yeah.
Something like
best shot. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
And hit the target.
Well, I didn't say that since this is an epitaph, like it already happened. Like took her best shot.
Yeah, that's a nice one. I like
That's
that. That's
me.
really,
Yeah.
really good. That's really good. Well, it's been absolutely wonderful talking to you, Irina, and I wish you all the best in your business ventures. And if you want to build out a thought leadership profile, visit www.podcastguesting.pro for anyone who's watching this. And I look forward to speaking again to the next guest. And good luck, Irina, and thank you very much for your time today. And you take care.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Joe. And,
No problem. Thank you. Goodbye.